Welcome back to the Saturday Scholars College Football Podcast. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. That is Zan. I am Shub, and today we are here to do something that we haven't done before on this channel, and we are going to pick a handful of college football national awards that are given out at the end of the season. And this is something that we thought, hey, last year we were like, hey, I think we could have done a pretty good job if we did this in picking players to win their respective awards for their positions. And we said, screw it, let's do it this year. So we're going to pick 6 awards. 1, Davey O'Brien for the best quarterback, Doak Walker for best running back, Biletnikoff for best wide receiver, and then the Mackey for best tight end. And then we decided 2 defensive players, the Bednarik and the Nagurski. They are 2 separate awards, but they're essentially for the same thing, best defensive player in college football, but it's 2 different voting groups that end up deciding the awards. So there could be 2 different players that receive 2 different awards for the same thing, essentially. So we're going to say, hey, let's pick 2 defensive players and get 2 little bites at the apple here and see if we can hit on one of them. So Zan, you ready to go? Let's start with Davey O'Brien for best quarterback. Who you got winning that award?
Well, normally speaking, if the Heisman winner is a quarterback, they usually get the Davy to someone else. And so I'm going to go ahead and say that my Davy O'Brien award is going to be my Heisman runner-up, and it's going to be Carson Beck.
I like it. Very good logic there. I was wondering if you were going to take that into account, and you're right. That is very true. Usually they do a good job of, if there's a lot of guys that are somewhat equally deserving, they kind of give it to the other guy that was the runner-up for the Heisman if they're the same position. So I like that. So my Davey O'Brien is going to go to Dylan Gabriel, my runner-up for the Heisman. So same logic, just different players for both of us. And I like both of our picks here. Both guys that are going to be on good teams that are going to put up some good numbers and with very high floors. Next up is the Doak Walker Award for best running back. What do you got?
So I actually was going to go with Baxter, the running back from Texas, but he got hurt and he's out for the year. So now I'm going to default to all reliable here, someone who I think is still a great running back, but who's going to have less success this year than they had last year. But ultimately, I think the winner who actually, because I don't know who's actually going to win this award, I think it's going to be someone random who's going to kind of pop out at us this year and just have a random blow up year. I think it's going to be someone that we're not expecting, but for the sake of continuity, and this is a very low, because most people don't win 2 Dokes, but I'm going to go ahead and go with Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State.
Ollie Gordon. Yeah, he is the favorite to repeat as the Doak Walker Award winner. But yeah, like you said, especially with running backs, it's kind of hard. There's kind of a little bit of what would you call it? You see this in the NFL a lot. Running backs will have big years where they pop, and then next year it's pretty easy to defend because you can stack the box against a good running back and know if that team becomes one-dimensional. So I'm actually with you there, Zan. I do like Ollie Gordon a lot, but it will be hard to replicate what he did
Mhm.
last year, just knowing that the teams know what to expect. So my Doak Walker a winner is going to be a guy that transferred this past year. And again, I had a hard time with this, and I agree with you. This is my least confidence pick of all these awards. And I really hate myself for doing this. But my Doak Walker winner is going to be Trevor Etienne of Georgia.
Mm, that's a
Now,
good pick.
I know that he is in a pretty stacked room because you have the 2 Robinsons there. You got Broderick Robinson and Branson Robinson behind him. Definitely very talented, but as a Gator fan, Trevor Etienne is the goods. I saw it last year. It sucks that he transferred, and with Georgia's offensive line and Georgia's multiple offense, they're going to run the ball a lot. They're not necessarily going to need to have Beck light it up, and I think Georgia will be in position to use Trevor Etienne very effectively. And the kid, as long as he stays healthy, is probably going to be an NFL back. And I think that he pops off this year for Georgia. But I personally would not like to see this happen as a Florida Gator fan. But so I don't know why. I don't know why I did this to myself and predicted it. All right. Next up is the Biletnikoff for best wide receivers. And what do you got?
Well, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, and that's going to be a guy who is coached by Drinkowitz. I'm going with Luther Burden.
Luther Burden. Yeah, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid too. drinking the Kool-Aid. Luther Burden. I'm actually pretty confident in this one. And you know why? It's because Luther Burden is one of the wide receivers coming back that we know for sure is good. He's going to be a top 10 pick in the draft, most likely. But two, he's got pretty good receivers behind him in Theo Weiss and Mookie Cooper. So it's not like it's one of those situations where these teams can double up on Luther. You got other guys to worry about. And I think with Cook coming back as well, you got the continuity of quarterback throwing to him, fifth year senior quarterback and Brady Cook throwing to him. He's set up for success. And with Missouri's offense, I think having to put a lot more points on the board this year because I think their defense will take a step back statistically. Luther Burden, I think, is a surefire to go off, and there's a reason why he's the favorite to win the Biletnikoff. So I feel pretty good about this one. I think Luther Burden can be the guy for all those reasons. Next up, the Mackey for best tight end in the country. This one, I think there's an argument to be made is a little wide open, but I don't know. What's your opinion on this? I personally had a tough time with this one.
Colston Loveland.
Colston Loveland.
Book it.
I mean, I think you could say right now he is the best receiver that Michigan has on that team. And you know what? You had the same thought process as me, man, because I also have Colston Loveland winning the Mackey. So two in a row, we have the same guy. Because of all the losses that Michigan sustained and the fact that they're going to be more of a run-heavy offense, when they do throw, it's going to be a lot of targets to Loveland. He's going to be like the primary guy at receiver.
He's going to be eaten.
He's going to be eaten, and I don't necessarily know if they'll have the most successful offense, but he will be eating in an offense that doesn't necessarily put up as many points as last year. But that doesn't matter. That's enough for you to win an individual award. And I'm with you, man. I think Colston Loveland will be that guy. And then I also had Brant Keithy as my very close runner-up. I think Keithy will come back and have a good year for Utah, but Colston Loveland, Michigan wins this. So two in a row that we have the same guy. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that we both, with all the defensive players there are to pick here, we each picked two. I really hope that we didn't pick one of the same guy, but you never know, man.
I bet at least one is the same. I bet
we seem
at
to
least
have
one
a
is the
similar
same.
wavelength here, but let's see. I'm very curious because I have no clue who you're going to pick, and I'm sure you have no clue who I'm going to pick.
I wouldn't be shocked if we cross on one of them, but one of them I would be absolutely shocked if we crossed. So the first one that I think we may potentially cross on is James Pierce. I'm going to go with James Pierce out of Tennessee.
Nice. Defensive end, James Pierce, correct? He's defensive end. And I've seen a lot of mock drafts. He's projected to be the number one pick in the NFL draft in some areas, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, he'll be a guy that definitely can stand out on a Tennessee defense that's probably going to be a little bit worse this year, but we'll see how that one plays out. So I do not have James Pierce. So we're not crossing over, it seems like. So my first defender off the board here is going to be a guy where I'm going to double dip on my on his teammate that I had for the Mackey. It's a Michigan guy. It's going to be
Mason Smith,
Mason Graham from Michigan, defensive tackle. Yeah, I think Mason Graham is in line to really go off this year at defensive tackle, and I do think that there's a chance he could end up being the number one pick in the draft. I think he is that talented, and I think that he will have a large opportunity to eat, as we like to say, at defensive tackle. And you know how this works. If you get a lot of sacks, like Ndamukong Suh did back in the day, if you're a defensive lineman that really goes off, the voters seem to really like that. I think there's a bias for defensive linemen over other positions when you have some monster statistical years, and I think Mason Graham can be that guy, and I expect him to be a top 5 pick in the draft.
I did toy around with picking him, but I decided to go a different route for my second pick, Shub. And my second pick is also going to be in the SEC. I'm going with Deion Walker out of Kentucky.
Ooh, I like it. I like it. Yeah, he'll be a guy that really can stand out on Kentucky, that's for sure. And he plays in the SEC. So my other pick is not going to be a defensive lineman. So I had to get some diversity of positional groups here. I was thinking maybe linebacker, but I was like, no. There's a lot of good linebackers that left college football last year, I think. I'm going to go with the safety. And he's also a guy that just transferred to his respective team. And he's a safety that I think has just immense potential. And he's going to be a guy that I think is a little risky picking here because he's on a team where the entire defense around him is completely stacked.
And
But
the
he has the
DBs normally don't win it either.
They don't, but I think on a defense around him that is very stacked, and with the way that his defensive coordinator, who I think is one of the best DCs in all of football, can scheme around and set up opportunities for him to eat and get interceptions against a Big Ten conference that doesn't necessarily have the best offenses. Caleb Downs, safety,
Mm.
Ohio State. I think he's just going to go off in the Jim Knowles system. That's pretty much right there summed up. Yes, there's a bunch of guys around him, and I had a hard time coming to terms with picking an Ohio State defender because I think that there's a lot of guys here that might be finalists or could be potential finalists for this award. But I was really thinking about it, and I was like, if Caleb Downs is not even like the best talent on his own defense, and other teams got to worry about those guys up front and the linebackers and Denzel Burke at corner, man, if you're playing safety and you could fly around the field and just be Caleb Downs in the Jim Knowles system, you might be able to eat. So I think this one's a little more risky, but I'm calling it right here. I think that Caleb Downs can have a huge statistical year and get some interceptions because of those reasons. And he's got the name
Oh,
recognition too. He's coming from Bama, so people know
that's
who he
true.
is. That definitely helps his cause. So there we go. So Zan with James Pierce, Deion Walker, and Mason Graham, Caleb Downs for Shub. So we did not cross over, which I think was pretty hard to do, but you never know. You never know. We did cross over twice with our receivers at wide receiver and tight end. So there you have it. Those are our 2024 Saturday Scholars official award predictions. We'll see what our hit rates at the end of the year end up being for this. It'll be very interesting to see.
I think we'll hit at least half of these.
At least half?
At
Maybe.
least two. At least two.
Hopefully at least two. But there's a lot of pride on the line here.